Hey guys, welcome to the Full Co. Today's video is going to be looking back on the Brighton versus Tottenham game yesterday. I didn't have a chance to do a review of the game in midweek, the Europa League game against Ferencvaros, yeah, we're going to be looking at the Brighton game. Sadly, Tottenham's 5-game unbeaten run comes to an end, and comes to an end in spectacular fashion. In the way that Tottenham do, and it's one of those things. It's as a Tottenham fan, you develop this kind of sense that we can't have nice things, and we're very Spursy, and that may or may not be the case. You could do a big analysis of all the games we've played, and the points we accrue and how things happen, and we may or may not be more Spursy than some other teams, but I think performances like the ones against Brighton yesterday are why other people call us that, and why we ourselves feel that way as well about our football club. There's that awful feeling when you know that the international break is coming again, and you've no matter how well you've been doing, no matter how well Tottenham have been doing over the last 5 games, just in terms of results, leaving aside performances, you get this impression that if ever there was a time that we were going to slip up, it's going to be before an international break, because we very, very often do it. There's a couple of situations: either a break is coming, or there is a key game, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a game against a big rival or a big team, but a key game coming up, and you just feel that Tottenham are going to find a way not to get the job done. And then you're either going to go away for a break, so have a long time to kind of stew on and mull on a negative result or a disappointing performance, or we're not going to get the job done. You've got that chance to jump into the top 4 by beating Aston Villa or something, and you just don't get it done. You don't get the job done. Typically Tottenham, and yesterday, after the first 45 minutes, you absolutely could be forgiven for thinking we've worked this out. We are playing well. We're putting performances out there. We're suffocating teams. We're scoring goals, and things are looking bright. But in the second half, that was every adjective you want to come up with from a negative point of view. It was an abject second 45 minutes, and as much as credit where it's due for the first 45 minutes, it was a good performance. Really nice. The press again working very well. The link up play in the midfield 3 and the attacking 3 going really well, and the results were there to be seen. So let's look at a couple of positives before we have to look at the second half, unfortunately. Dom Solanke had a very quiet game overall, but if you look at what he did in the first half, he was instrumental to the key moments for us and scoring the goal. So obviously a wonderful through ball for Brennan Johnson, who we'll chat about in a second. Really nice, perfect weight, perfect time, put it in a position where Johnson can take it first time and gives him a high percentage chance. And then the second goal again does really well, strength, holding off Baleba in the midfield, and then feeding Werner, who then plays it into Maddison, who sweeps it in under the goalkeeper. Bit of a goalkeeping error there, but again, good performance from Dom. He potentially looked a little tired, or maybe it was just the second half that we were so far off it, and the distance actually right from the beginning of the second half between himself and that midfield 3 and the 2 wide players was enormous, and we'll talk about the goal just after half time in a sec. I think that makes it obviously much harder for him. He runs tirelessly and he gets across and he makes it difficult, but when you've got enormous gaps behind you, it is a thankless task, and I absolutely don't blame him for kind of dropping off if everybody else is not going to come with him on that journey. So he did well. Brennan, 6 in 6, fabulous. He's doing great things, and he can only do his job, and he's doing that right now. You know, the odd murmur about the chance that he missed, but thankfully on the replays that they showed, they had a really nice tight shot from just behind, which showed very clearly, and it's one of the hardest things, but if you watch the ball coming across, it is a low bouncing ball as it's bouncing across his path, and that instant that he takes the shot, it's on the up bounce, which, as we all know, is going to create the rise on the ball instead of on the down bounce, and it is literally a fraction of a second. If it's on that down bounce, it is very likely to hit it probably in the roof of the net. If you look where it goes over, it kind of goes over the goalkeeper slightly or over the keeper's left arm. But yeah, it's one of those roof of the net finishes that we've seen from Johnson, that is so hard for keepers to save. Obviously, go low and close to the keeper's legs, that's also a very difficult finish. But he's gone for power because he's confident, and that tiny little bounce has taken it up, and it's those tiny margins. And yes, if that goal goes in, and you know we're 3-0 up at the end of the half, you know you could say it's a different game. But he's still doing his things, still putting some good defensive duty as well. There was a moment in the second half when we were really under the cosh, really poor play. We let Brighton in, and he just grabs hold of the ball on the edge of the 18 and runs it out of danger. And similarly in the first half, getting down into that wide area and blocking across from Mitoma. So Johnson can probably be one of the few players that can hold his head high. Decky again really well in the first half, but he really struggled a bit in the second half and wasn't in the game as much as an attacking force. And certainly in terms of defensive duty, that's not his natural game. The press on the defensive side, absolutely, but it's not his game to be in there winning balls and plugging holes when we're up against it. So we struggled in the second half. Beyond that, not a great deal to say about anybody else. It was going okay. I thought Porro, even in the first half, was having a difficult time. Mitoma is a very good player, but again, Porro lacks defensive instinct, and he doesn't get tight. There was a moment where in the first half Mitoma played the ball with the outside of his right foot, lovely ball in across the face, and Brighton had a chance. And that again, for whatever reason, Porro has decided very early on, as the ball is swept up to Mitoma, that he's not going to go and press. He's decided, I'm not going to get there, which is right. You know, if the wide player has already secured possession, then you shouldn't go running straight at him, because it's an easy run for them to take you on and beat you. But he makes the decision from long before the ball gets to Mitoma that he is not going to get out there quickly, which I think is the wrong decision, because then as he comes out there more slowly, Mitoma's got a nice little corridor, and he's got the quality to play it with the outside of his right foot. So again, those little things are things that we really need to improve on from a defensive perspective. Not much more to say. Delighted at half-time, thinking this is all going very well. Goalkeeping mistake certainly allows us to score that second goal. Yes, we can talk about Timo in the first or second minute, and that ball, it's an easy ball to play, and he should do it. There's no two ways about it. He should play that ball. We should be 1-0 up. That should be a tap in at the back post, or at the very least a really good chance for Johnson on his own. He's roasted Kadioglu on that right hand side, and he doesn't play it. Player low on confidence. Everything seems difficult for him, even the easiest of passes. But despite that, Timo kept taking his man on, kept taking on was it Veltman on that side, and kept beating him, and he had the pace on him. So he's got that side of it, and he consistently did it throughout the game, but so low on confidence that he can't do the simple things, and certainly the 1v1s are what, you know, a big part of causing those issues. We move into the second half. I see a lot of people talking about, young Brighton manager changes it up, makes changes at halftime. I'll tell you, to my recollection, he makes one change, which is Estupiñán comes on in place of Kadioglu, and Estupiñán, he's a very good player, but he's a very attacking fullback. He's potentially a bit more athletic, and obviously a natural left footer on that side. But for me, that doesn't lead to that first goal, it doesn't lead to the second goal, it doesn't lead to the third goal. Brighton came out as you would expect any team that has had, a first half like they've had. They come out up for it, and they are going to go back into cliches. They're going to go in and earn the right to play. They're going to challenge for everything. They're going to work harder. They're going to run harder. They're going to press harder. They're going to do all the things they didn't do to us in the first half, and we were absolutely not prepared for it. It felt like we were going to come out, we were going to kind of just see how it went, try to be controlled about it, but we do not have a team with the defensive instincts to be able to do that. We don't have that kind of controlling 11 out there, and so for me, with the squad that we have available, we need to continue that high intensity pressing game and the continuous waves of attack, because I just don't feel we've got the players to sit there and control a football game in that way. And immediately we were so poor for that first goal. The ball played back, it's swept out and around the back line and down the left hand side far too easily. Again, no blocking from the midfield into that little channel where the ball is played inside in between the midfield line and our defensive line, and then the ball is worked back out wide and swept across in those wet conditions. For me, again, Porro not working hard enough maybe to get across, but once that ball does come in with quality, Van der Ven gets off his feet and gets a little touch on it, which caused it to pop up slightly and stick loads of spin on it. I'm not sure that was the right decision from Van der Ven to go to ground for that one. Just let that one go across you. If you're aware of what's around, Van der Ven had no threat. There was no threat in directly behind him. The next player along is Udogie. There's no threat there. There's no threat from the striker coming in. Stay on your feet for me for that one. He's made a decision. He's got it wrong, and then we've compounded it by Udogie, and I will give him the tiniest mitigation that there is spin on the ball from Van der Ven's hack, but Udogie goes for it with his right foot, makes a right mess of it. And then, as seems to happen for Tottenham, anything in and around the area, the bounce is going to go for the opposition. It doesn't often go for us, and certainly when we're not playing well and we don't deserve it, we don't get the rub. And so that ball pops up, bounces off the back of his thigh or off his bum, and sits nicely for the striker to just tuck it inside the near post. Really poor. Not controlled attempt at a clearance from Udogie, who really did struggle throughout the game actually. He's gone for a huge smash, and again it's these tiny details. You go for that, you've just had the hack from Van der Ven, you compound it with going for a massive windmill of a clearance, an avid clearance, and you get it all wrong, and it didn't need to be. That ball coming across, a little bit of composure and just get a solid surface behind it and send it back where it's come from, and we should have dealt with that, and then on we go and we keep playing. Little warning and a little wake up for us, but given how we played throughout the second 45, I've got a feeling even if we did clear that one, the next action would have been similar and we would have kept doing it, because we showed absolutely no resilience in that second half. The second goal, again, just really poor. There's no defence for the way that we were off in the press. We were sat deeper. No one was getting close to their men, and Brighton were playing the ball around us with ease, and getting in. And then if you can extrapolate everything all the way down to 1v1 duels, which were not being won, or at the very least not being done to 100%. You saw for the second goal on the edge of the box, again really soft to let Brighton get in so easily, to get into that that zone 14 that I've mentioned before, get in there so easily, that zone of danger. And then the striker's got the ball at his feet. He's got no passes on. He's got no runners coming, so defenders don't need to be looking at balls threaded in and turning them around. And you've got Udogie, bumps him but doesn't really. And that half-hearted kind of jab out his left leg bump effectively pushes the striker onto Van de Ven's other side, which causes Van de Ven to turn around. You shouldn't be turning around in that situation. If you've got to turn around in that situation, you're in trouble. If you turn your back on the ball in a situation like that, you are in trouble at Premier League level. And yeah, so it effectively just bumps the striker over to the left. And then a great finish, a really good finish. He catches the ball nicely, I think, through Van de Ven's legs and down into the side netting. So it's a good finish, but it's really, really poor play. Really sloppy to let the ball get into that area that easily as it did. And then the 1v1 defending from Udogie and then from Van de Ven is not good enough. Van de Ven again struggled, not again as in he's had a lot of this, but he struggled a lot in this game. So there was a couple of times he went to ground again, not winning the ball, and I just felt that that youth and that inexperience slightly got the better of him today. He didn't need to go to ground several times for the first goal. There were tackles missed in kind of that midfield defence area where I didn't feel he needs to go to ground and try and win the ball in that situation, and it didn't come off for him today. And then you take all of those same themes, and it was exactly the same for the third goal. First of all, Udogie looks like he's done well because he has pinched the ball off the attacker on the touchline as he does with his physicality, and he can do that really, really well. But then he dallies on it, and he decides he's going to try and play his way out, and he just rolls under his studs out of play for a soft throw. Then he backs off and allows the throw to come in too easily, doesn't press the player, doesn't keep the player with his back to goal and force him back towards the touchline. Far too easy for that player to bring the ball down, and then three of them standing around. I think Maddison, Udogie, and I can't remember who it was, there was possibly Decky. Three of them standing around, no one takes responsibility. It's close to the 18-yard box, so potentially not trying to give away a set piece or a penalty, but just not strong enough. Three players around, he manages to wriggle through, chops through Udogie's legs towards the byline, and then Bentancur gets it all wrong. He decides to kind of see it out of play by putting his body in the way, but it's just not strong enough. The player wants it more, and slides in and hooks a lovely ball up. And once again, Christian Romero is asleep. And you could argue that everything that's led up to that point is disappointing, and he's thinking, well, three on one over there, they're going to deal with that, and then the ball comes through and Bentancur's there, he's going to deal with that. But it really doesn't matter. It is everybody in the team, and it was symptomatic of the entire team in the second half, everybody not doing their job. So each individual not winning their duels, not putting enough in, not being serious enough about each individual situation and duel, which leads to the ball obviously chipping up directly to a completely unmarked Welbeck, who couldn't really miss. He's a really good player and a good striker, and he's not going to miss a chance like that. And Romero, you see him with his head in his hands after that action. He knows he's fallen asleep. He knows also that everybody else, and it's one of those where you've made a mistake, but you know that everybody before you's made a mistake, and you desperately want to blame it on everybody before you, but there's a part in this for you as well. So that's one of those that players get back in the dressing room and start shouting and bickering, and no one's wrong. Everybody has got it wrong on the pitch. So you fell asleep, you didn't do your bit, you're all right. None of you did your job. And it was absolutely appalling. And then given it took about 18-19 minutes for them to score 3 goals, and they then took a breath, we showed absolutely nothing going forward. Nothing. I think we had a Udogie chance where it came to him on the edge of the box, and we had a chance. We showed nothing whatsoever, no desire, nobody wanting the ball. Again, that lack of bravery when it's not going our way, but with the ball. So we'd shown a complete lack of responsibility defensively, and then that spilled over into our attacking game. We weren't making those link-ups. Nobody wanted the ball. We weren't playing it early. We weren't moving about. Everyone was standing saying, okay, if you give it to me, but I'm not moving. And that was similar to the Arsenal game, where we were a little bit afraid to get on the ball and play. And that was the same thing. We had a long time to go and get that third goal and try and get out and salvage a point. Didn't want it, didn't show the desire. So that's extremely disappointing. And the overall theme of this game was a lack of responsibility when things aren't going well. When things are going well, this team can really tick and can really do some good stuff. But actually, I didn't see anybody losing their mind with their teammates taking a bit of leadership and saying, let's go, let's pick this up. Didn't happen after the first goal, second goal, third goal, nothing at all, no reaction at all. Everybody went inside their shell. Nobody took responsibility, and it felt like everybody was hoping that something's going to happen. We'll get a chance and we'll score a goal and let's get out of here and, let's not talk too much about it. Absolutely not good enough. That attitude in this group of players will not get us where we want to be this season. If we want top four, it won't get us there. If we want to win a trophy, it won't get us there. We will not win the Europa League. We will not win the Carabao Cup. We will not get in the top four, because we will face teams who are going to do that to us, and teams that are capable of doing that to us across 90 minutes. So we won't get where we need to be if we're going to play like that. Ange afterwards saying it's his most disappointing defeat. I can absolutely see where he's coming from. My personal feeling is I would have liked Ange to take responsibility and make changes. And I do understand, or I think I understand, where he's coming from when he says substitutions weren't the issue. What I was watching on the pitch is that we weren't doing what we were supposed to do. I could have made substitutions, but we weren't doing. And I understand that. But it's a bit like being a parent, where you've got the dual things of kind of letting your kids learn lessons for themselves, or intervening and stopping them from, dropping something and smashing it. I totally get it, and there's you can look at it in different ways. I personally would have got in and stopped my kids from dropping, the ball in this particular game, because I felt like changes were needed, a shift in momentum, a change, and some instructions onto the pitch to say this isn't good enough, right? So it's not that the players on the pitch can't do it and they're not the right players to do it, but you're not doing it, and therefore you're getting changed, you're getting hooked, so that the other players around see that and try to improve and try to pick up their performance. That's just my personal way of looking at it. I do get his point, but I disagree, and I'm a different kind of coach, and he's far more experienced than I am, but that's the way I see things. So definitely one of the most disappointing performances in terms of 45 minutes. Ridiculous that we could be that good in the first half and that bad in the second, but so very typically Tottenham. Take a 2-goal lead and throw it away. We've got some very unwanted statistics, again back up the narrative about being Spursy. In terms of 10 games, 10 Premier League matches where we've had a 2-goal lead and then gone on to lose the game, far more than any other team in the Premier League. And again, you can look at that narrative and say we're one of the clubs that's been in the Prem since the first season. Doesn't matter. There's a load of other teams, all the ones above us, who are also there. They played the same number of games, and there's a few others, like teams like Everton and things like that, who've also been there, and they also haven't gone 2 goals up and conceded those leads. So it does matter. It is a statistic that speaks to us not having that resilience that you need to get over the line. So if this doesn't act as a learning moment for the team, and again, you get this in a rebuild, right? You get these moments where it's going quite well, and then there's a bit of a dip. But then you build again, and you go on another run. That we used to do that with Pochettino quite a lot. We used to have runs and a bit of disappointment, but then go on another run and then a bit of disappointment until he really started to click a couple of seasons in. But you hope that's going to happen. There's no guarantee and there's no evidence that is going to happen. But hopefully, things were pretty angry after the game last night. Everyone goes away on international duty, they come back and it's still angry. I want that training ground to be really, really focused and aggressive coming into that game against West Ham in a couple of weeks' time, because that simply was unacceptable. And if we play anywhere like we did in the second half and feel sorry for ourselves going into the West Ham game, West Ham turn into prime Barcelona when they play us. They will take us to pieces, and they've got the players to really, really put us under pressure and make it a difficult game for us. So, yeah, as ever, a couple of weeks to stew on it and feel terrible. Thanks for that, Tottenham. Always appreciate how you find ways to make our lives difficult as fans. But let's see where it takes us. And again, it's one of those, in hindsight, we have to wait 5 games potentially to see whether this was a learning moment or whether there are serious problems. So let's see where we can get to. Hopefully no injuries and no issues on international duty. We really, really do need first teamers back, and we'll see where we can get to in the next round of fixtures. So anyway, I'll leave it there on that disappointing note, but we're still here, we'll still be at the games, we'll still be supporting, and let's hope we can do better. So anyway, have a great week, have a great international break, and come on, Tottenham.